Assalamu alaikum and greetings. Welcome to the Global Air Traffic Management Conference 2020. This panel is on the topic of harmonizing unmanned aircraft system traffic management, or UTM, with air traffic control, ATC, to create the world's smartest sky. My name is Matthew Cochran from the Defense Services Marketing Council, and I'm honored to be your moderator today. Special thanks to our distinguished panel of experts from General Civil Aviation Authority, Uber Elevate, UAE Government, and D-Flight, as well as the organizers of Global Air Traffic Management Conference 2020. Also, special thanks to the attendees that have signed up to watch this today virtually. The panel topic today, again, is harmonizing unmanned aircraft system traffic management, UTM, with air traffic control, ATC, to create the world's smartest sky. Before I turn to the panel to make opening remarks on the topic, please allow me to introduce each briefly. Omar Abdouli, Acting Manager, ATC, General Civil Aviation Authority. Tom Prevot, Director of Airspace Systems, Uber Elevate. Ruba Fayez Abdelal, the Innovative and Self-Driving Transport Project Manager at Roads and Transport Authority, Dubai, and Cristiano Baldoni, the Chief Executive Officer of D-Flight. To the audience and attendees today, please find out more about our great expert panel by visiting our Global Air Traffic Management Conference 2020 website, or feel free to contact any of us directly after the event for more information. Our conference organizer will be running the technology side of things and will also be recording this session. So let's get right to it. Earlier this year, new drone regulations were announced to help Dubai promote itself as a hub for drone manufacturing, smart transportation, and innovation in the sector. This session will discover how to strengthen the UAE's position in aviation with a connected and collaborative airspace. With that, if I might turn it over to Cristiano for opening remarks, please.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Thank you for the organizer. It's an incredible pleasure for me to attend this virtual meeting. It's a pity, of course, that I don't have the audience in front of me, but I really hope that the audience itself will enjoy visiting the website and listening to the recording of this streaming of today. About D-Flight, and I think it's really appropriate for D-Flight for being here on this board, because D-Flight is the first company published private partnership built by INAV, the Italian air navigation service provider, together with leading Italian industry to develop the unmanned traffic solution for Italy, fully integrated with air traffic control. So I think it will be very interesting to listen to the other participants. I hope that I will provide a valuable contribution to the discussion.
Thank you, Cristiano. Ruba, you have a very interesting title, Innovative and Self-Driving Transport Project Manager. Please, your opening remarks.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Matthew. I'm really honored to be here today with all of you. I'm very excited to listen to all of your inputs. I believe it's going to be a very interesting event with all of those diverse and multi-sector backgrounds of all of you. In terms of my title, I'm an engineer. I've started my career as a civil engineer, working in the construction field. And after that, I joined the Army Corps of Engineers and Lockheed Martin. And one thing led to another. And with the new technologies and drones coming in, things evolved with me. And I ended up working for the Roads and Transport Authority here in Dubai, working on innovative projects and also a self-driving transport project, which drones is a big part of that.
Ruba, thank you very much. Tom, Uber Elevate, you're just waking up in California. Thank you for joining us so early and watching the sunrise as we watch the sunset. Your opening remarks, Tom.
Well, thank you, Matthew. It's my pleasure to be here. Yeah, at Elevate, we're really trying to weave the everyday flight of people and things into the Uber platform. And our current focus is primarily on enabling scalable operations with electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, passenger carrying vehicles across cities across the world, starting in like 2023. Before I joined Uber, I had the great pleasure of working at NASA Ames for over 20 years, and I was sort of part of the core team developing principles around US traffic management and the whole core UTM ideas. And really some of the original foundations were kind of governed in the fact that we have now technology has enabled vehicles that allow a type of air traffic operations and aircraft operations at a scale and diversity that we had actually never seen before. And the realization that the current air traffic system has not really been built around those types of operations and wouldn't necessarily scale to this. So we kind of set out and how can we come up with an alternative approach and build up potentially a parallel system that would rely a lot more on technology and interoperability between the different operators to coordinate the flow of traffic in a different and potentially more innovative way than the current very safe air traffic system that is built around people flying from A to B, though at higher altitudes and not the very diverse low altitude operations. So I think it is great from that perspective, going a few years back, to actually see a lot of successes already around the world around the approach from UTM, whether it's the LAN's capability in the US that is an initial step, or in various other places we see operators and industry and government really working together and trying to establish this sort of new way of managing air traffic. And I also think it is going to be important to preserve some of these core principles of allowing federated approaches and allowing the innovation that industry can bring to the table that wasn't originally part of the way that we designed air traffic systems. So I'm very excited about this kind of new phase in air traffic and figuring out the right interoperability between the traditional air traffic system, the coming UTM system for small drones, as well as building on top of this for more passenger kind of middle category aircraft that will fly through the cities in the near future.
Tom, thank you very much. Omar, assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for being on the panel today. Omar, I have been privileged to be flying in and out of the UAE and Dubai specifically for over 20 years, and I know how important the General Civil Aviation Authority is. Please, we welcome your opening remarks on this important subject.
Thank you very much, Matthew, and good evening. Of course, it's an evening time here in UAE. I'm looking forward to learn from you guys. This is a very interesting subject to me nowadays. It's emerging very fast. It will be very interesting to see how, as said, the traditional ATC compared to with all the regulation behind traditional ATC and with completely unregulated environment, to see the difference and the transition between the two. So I'm looking forward to hear from you and share my experience as an ATC in Sheikh Zayed Center in GCA. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opening remarks. The first question today is really looking at these unprecedented times, understanding how COVID has created a new normal and a new way of traveling. Looking forward to the future, how will drones help accelerate the industry recovery? Cristiano, would you like to kick off that one?
Yeah, let me break the ice, of course. I think there are tremendous expectations from drones technologies. They will be progressively introduced in many industrial processes, in social activities that will provide a big portion of benefits. There are a lot of expectations again. What we see is that there are still a lot of requirements and constraints so that this marketplace can really exploit. These are strong limitations, and I think there's a pity that nowadays in COVID situation we cannot really make we cannot really leverage on drones, for instance, to support medical parcel delivery, or even to transport the vaccines that will be soon ready for our citizens. There will be tremendous logistic problems for delivering many vaccines to all the population. And I think that even there, drones might play a significant role. Of course, we all need to work together in order to accelerate this process, in order to create the conditions so that this market can really take place, that it can explode and bring all the expected benefits to the society.
Cristiano, thank you for those thoughts. And Ruba, when you think about innovation and how will innovation really hasten or accelerate coming out of this crisis, how will drones affect that in a positive way?
I feel there's a lot of potential for drones to bring back the economy, to also come up with innovative ways on how we move things and how we move people as well. So I believe this this tough year, the pandemic and with the COVID-19 has been tough on everyone. But if we look at it in a positive way, it pushed a lot of those great minds to think out of the box and to also be innovative and use the available technology that is already there. Now the drones technology is there. Maybe it's not 100% mature, but it's on its way. And it pushed those great minds to work harder on research and development and come up with like better ways of communicating, maybe better ways of flying and better ways of providing services. And as well, it's also maybe it was a great way if we can look at it instead of a threat and a challenge this year. We can also look at the opportunities that it gave to this industry, the industry of drones, where even governments and regulators are now looking at those opportunities and looking at different innovative opportunities to come back stronger from what we're going through. So I think drones will help a lot, not only in the medical sector, but also on so many sectors, like even how we like in terms of logistics, let's say. I'm sure they will kick very strongly in the field of logistics, as well as inspection, monitoring, traffic control, let's say, and we've seen a huge adoption for drones in the last couple of years. But I believe after this year, and especially with what we're going through, we're going to see a much faster adoption for drones because everybody is thirsty for innovation now to come back stronger. And one way is using new technologies such as drones.
And Tom, to that point, Uber has been disruptive in many industries, and now as we look forward to how this recovery comes out, will this actually bring about a faster change in the industry to recover? Will this be that unicorn moment where people do turn to a focus on UTM and combine that with ATC to get these products faster to market? Will it help the recovery?
I mean, I would say we have definitely seen, even like during this pandemic, a large increase in delivery operations, obviously, because people are confined to their homes and they order a lot more things, a lot of food actually in our particular case. And it's unfortunate that the drone industry is not quite ready to support those types of operations right now. And I think the big hurdle here is that we still don't have rules of doing any kind of scale beyond visual line of sight delivery operations that I think will be enabled through UTM type systems and technologies and information exchange that's going to come in there. It's just that we're not quite there yet. Nobody is able to do this at scale today. I think if we were a few years potentially later down the road and we had those, you would also see those kind of expanding quite a bit. But it's also interesting how drones are showing lots of other sort of positive examples around this. I mean, here in California in 2020, I mean, 2020 is a year that brings everything that we've had large wildfires again, more than we've had ever before. But even there, you can see drone technology is being able to safely assess where are the fires, where what is the amount of damage that we're looking at, where in years before you would have had to put people potentially at risk and putting them into helicopters, doing those types of things. So there are a number of things we can do today. Also, we see medical deliveries in lower density or more rural areas around the world that are already picking off. So I do think there's a huge potential. It'll probably just, again, it'll need a few more years. It'll need all the technologies to be in place on the UTM side, well, interoperating with air traffic control to make sure these operations are safe, especially if we're thinking about like drone flights over people, over cities, beyond the line of sight of the operators. We kind of need to continue on, I think, the path where we are, working with the regulators and building a strong safety culture and the technologies all coming together in order to enable and really fully unlock the potential of those types of operations.
Thank you. Omar, Dubai consistently leads in leadership around the world for transportation. One of the interesting things that we saw during 2020, during the pandemic, during the response, is that the UAE was able to launch the Hope probe. And it really was a sign, I think, to the rest of the world. If you can do it in the UAE, if you can do it in Dubai, you can really do it anywhere. And how will that leadership continue when it comes to the drone industry? What is your opinion from your perspective?
To start with, Matthew, from ATC perspective, I will talk from ATC perspective. We have already established segregated area, segregated airspace for UAVs. So this is for us a start. So with this, we can identify the risk, we can identify the hazard, and maybe this is the stone that we set already. From this, we can expand a little bit further. We can expand further and safely with commercial flights.
Omar,
I hope this answers my question.
No, it's very helpful, and it actually leads us into really the next question on this important topic, and that is, how can we improve collaboration to create a unified airspace? When you talk about that leadership that you just outlined that Dubai already has in place, what more can be done in collaboration? Cristiano, can I turn that over to you to start us off on that question, please?
Thank you, Matthew. For sure, the experience we are having in Italy, it's I think relevant for others. The way we approached it is to put the air navigation service provider into the center. The reason why is that, of course, we need to take into account that there are several users of the airspace. There are not only the newcomers, so the drones and the drones operators, but of course there are a lot of legacy users. There are militaries, there are state aircraft, there are general aviation, sport aviation, and so on and so forth. And for the time being, we are looking at very low level operations, but soon drones, especially when they will start to encompass so-called urban air mobility, so transport people and goods, and they will need to move above 120 meters. 120 meters limit will not be enough anymore. So we really need to deploy an integrated UTM, ATM, SKY, seamless air traffic management. We need to take into account that the ATM model is not fit for purpose for unmanned traffic. There are too many, and there are no pilots beyond them. So the model of ATC doesn't simply work. with a managed. But and on the other hand, we think that there is a lot that we will be able to learn from UTM to be exported in ATM, because when we will prove that we will be able to manage several thousands of drones all moving all together in the same portion of sky together with the rest of traffic, probably it means that those technologies will also fit for purpose for the conduction of manned aviation. Helping us to move from the so-called human-centric approach of ATC to a more human on the loop approach, which is something that is already beyond the research of Cesar and also FAA is looking in that direction, and so on and so forth. So definitely there is a lot of interchange from one side, things that we can learn each other. The two worlds need to grow together, evolve together. Otherwise, the system will not work. The segregation of portion of airspace to accommodate drones will not work on a longer term. The invasion of drones without proper coordination with manned aviation wouldn't work either. So the only way is really to move together. It will take time, of course. It's not something that it will take. It will occur from night to day, but it's a process that we have to undertake, and we are moving in that direction.
Ruba, would you agree with that? The two worlds coming together, really a regulatory, industrial collaboration, and realizing how small the airspace is in some countries when you have competing military airspace, civilian airspace, recreational airspace. Do you see that needing to come together versus segregating?
Definitely. I feel that cross-sectional collaboration is essential at this point, and it's extremely important starting from today going forward, because simply there are so many players in the sky, and to create that smart sky, it will be impossible without working together. If you want to manage, monitor, and control the sky in a safe and efficient manner with all these different players in the sky, the only way to do that is through collaboration, because as you know, there are different conventional, let's say, players in the sky, such as aviation authorities, regulators, air navigation service providers, air traffic control, airlines, airports, unmanned aerial vehicle operators. These are all conventional players that already they already control and monitor and look into the sky. But I'm expecting new players to come to the sky in the future from different industries. So now, due to the use of drones in different industries and in different applications, you're also talking about different industries coming into the skies, not just different devices, not just different technologies. It's also different sectors with different mentalities, maybe with different purposes, with different targets. So the only way to be able to manage the sky in a safe and efficient manner and make it really smart and have enough data that everybody can use in a safe and effective manner is working together. And working together can be through different channels. These channels can be through partnerships, creating those multi-sector partnerships, also through cross-sectional projects. People need to put mutual targets together and work on these projects together within maybe a timeline, put a roadmap together and achieve those goals together. And also another way or another channel for effective collaboration is the development of multi-sector work groups and forums. It is very important for a smart sky to happen, and for all of these players to work together, is to also sit and talk together in some degree of transparency and just work openly together in these within work groups or forums, exchange lessons learned and exchange those great experiences and work together on helping each other solving these challenges and sharing the sky as well. I think all of these efforts and the continuous collaboration will definitely make things much easier and faster.
Ruba, thank you. Tom, you talked a little bit about it in your opening remarks, NASA, and NASA has been disrupted by outside players like SpaceX and Blue Origin and others. When we look at the future, and I was sharing the fact that I'd be on this panel today with a friend of mine who works with Porsche, he said, don't just worry about, you know, the people that will be moving other people like Uber, Elevate, and others. He says, think about the people that want to drive their own Porsche drone in the sky. He says, it will be a flooded market. And so he said, there will be enthusiasts and recreational. It's really limitless. What are your thoughts on that? Where is that collaboration going to be disrupted? Is it going to come from industry, or is it going to come from government, or is it going to be a combination like Ruba and Cristiano have talked about?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's already been disrupted, right, from industry and from just, we had an influx of small drones, and even if they were mostly flown like within line of sight of the people, and we have so many vehicle manufacturers developing like new passenger carrying electric vehicles that will start to roll out, and some of them we're seeing already flying, of course, the more conventional multi-rotor type things. So I think, and going back to Ruba's point, an important part here is being able to kind of everybody work together here and acknowledge that there are so many different stakeholders, so many different use cases, and so many kind of different interests in this. But at the end of the day, it's still aviation. It's something that has a very high safety record, and we want to maintain the safety record. So even for the people who want to fly their own Porsche, if it's there essentially, they would need to be able to participate in a way that also meets this safety record. So whatever services are provided to them to integrate into the airspace, they would need to have a similar standard as kind of commercial services that are there. They would need to be able to properly interoperate with the rest of the system. And again, kind of going back to some of the original principles with UTM, it was really kind of tried to lay out a framework that allows different types of implementation. So if somebody, some country decides we want to go out and we want to put the ANSP into the center of everything, it is possible within this framework to do it this way. It wouldn't be my preferred solution, actually. I'm more a friend of more federated and encompassing solutions, but it is a possibility to do it this way. Now, one of the things that I think is very important from an potential operator perspective, though, is that there's also a lot of, as much as possible, some global harmonization on a lot of the different elements, because you don't want to be flying under completely different rules and with completely different services in one place of the world than in the other place of the world, and have to change everything everywhere where you are. So I think beyond bringing the community together in local areas, it's also incredibly important to bring it together globally and try to harmonize a lot of the fundamentals that allow you to participate in this environment. And again, because people want to, I mean, we're looking forward to be traveling a lot more, but we want to be able to do a lot of the things in different places of the world, and we don't want to have like microcosms absolutely everywhere, at least as far as the aviation is concerned.
And you actually, this helps us turn back over to Omar. Omar, from an ATC perspective, what do you want to see more of from industry? What do you want to see to help that harmonizing between UTM and ATC? What is your hopes that these task force, these working groups that Ruba talked about need to happen more often? From a government perspective, what do you want to see from industry that will be helpful to you from an ATC perspective?
To start with, Matthew, we need collaborative decision making. This is very important. One of the examples that we have here in the UAE, something called National Advisory Committee, National Airspace Advisory Committee. Such committee consists of all ANSPs, airlines, airspace users, and we identify new requirements, we identify issues, and basically we decide together how we can take it forward. Collaboration with this as well can identify, for example, if there is a requirement for new area for UTM. We can restrict the airspace to identify new area for UTM use. There is also a terminology in ATC that we call flexible use of airspace. This terminology is being used at the moment for military, between civil and military. But basically what it means is during outside peak periods, normal ATC period, we can allocate certain airspace during certain time for UTM use. We need definitely to share more information. We need to collaborate together. We need to work together to take this further and to build this together. Definitely, we cannot say that ATM will work by itself and UTM will work by itself and they both have their own rules. No, because nowadays we will see that they are using the same airspace. There are some UAVs low level, there are some UAVs very high level. So at one stage we'll see if they are not sitting beside each other, they are one unit.
It's really that moving as one, that coming together as industry and government, even academia, that we hope to see. I think collaboration is important, and we have about 10 minutes left, and so I'm going to combine a couple questions here for the panel. Cristiano, with the rise in UTM, what challenges do you see in the post-pandemic world? We've talked about collaboration. Now let's talk about the challenges, but at the same time, how can you successfully integrate UTM? So the challenges and the solutions. Can you outline some of your thoughts on that, Cristiano?
Yeah, well, the challenge, I think we already expressed them. I think maybe the biggest challenge here is now the social acceptance, together with some more flexible regulation, which should be more proportional in order to make more feasible the routinary operations with drones. We see now it's definitely possible to fly here and there, BVLOS or even in autonomous, but permissions to grant these flights are very complicated, and they're basically all experimentation. We do not see, for the time being in Italy, at least, routine operations. If you exclude the VLOS operations for very simple operations. So this is the main challenge. Social acceptance from one side, regulatory approach ahead of the fact that technologies are now mature enough. UTM is already delivering some very useful services for coordination. Here in Italy, we are just opening the first collaborative UTM ATC center. It will be a D-flight operational position just aside the INAV operation position. So there will be really the interoperability between operation of manned aviation and UAS operators. I think that's very interesting. On the other side, INAV itself, as air navigation service provider, is not entitled to talk directly with US operators. Even if INAV wants, it can't by law. So we definitely need something like that. And I think we are moving in this direction. I really hope that 2021 will be able to show the background picture I have here, crowded of drones and other kind of users.
I think we all want to visit that center, so we'll wait for our invitation to come visit you in Italy.
Sure.
Ruba, the same question, really. We have talked about the challenges, that's true, and we've talked about collaboration, but really what's going to be the successful integration UTM? What would you measure that by?
I measure that by the completion of, like, let's say the level of a complete ecosystem, because it is very important to create a complete sustainable ecosystem that will accelerate the adoption of drones and integration of drones in a safely manner. Like, I cannot agree more with Tom when he mentioned the regulations and the aviation regulators. We're talking about collaboration, but in terms of collaboration, we're not competing for authority. I'm not talking about we want to compete in the sky, who's going to control the sky and what. Still, the aviation authorities, I believe, are the main are the center and are the main component of the sky, let's say, because everything at the end will has to go under certain regulations, because we all want a safe, not only smart, but also a safe sky. So in terms of that ecosystem that I mentioned, I can say that there are four main pillars, let's say, to achieve that. These four main components of a sustainable and successful and a complete ecosystem maybe can be used also to measure the success rate, or whatever you want to call it, of the integration. And these four components are first, I would say, regulations. And when we talk about regulation, we talk about governance, we talk about operational regulations, as well as the certification process. It is very important to keep those strong. At the same time, we want them to be also to be, let's say, to catch up with technology as well, because technology is going pretty fast. And the second pillar is technology in terms of research and development. And when you talk about technology here, I'm talking about both hardware and software. And we really need to encourage the improvements in technology. We need to support and fund our research institutes. We need to fund our academia as well to make sure they stay up to date. They also can develop and improve their systems. And this way we can also measure the success in that development of technology. The third pillar I can say is infrastructure. The needed infrastructure for that integration is pretty important, and that infrastructure can be communication infrastructure as well as structural infrastructure. You still need control centers. You need maybe takeoff and landing stations. You still need airports. And at the same time, you need the proper communication and telecommunication infrastructure to be there. And the fourth one, which is extremely important, is the business pillar of that ecosystem. To be able to push all of these pillars and create a complete sustainable ecosystem for a successful adoption of drones, I would say we have to create attractive business models and effective operating models. So we encourage also a profitable sector here. You need to create successful use cases that will increase and accelerate adoption, as well as you will encourage a lot of investors and industries to put money in that sector and push it forward. And with these four pillars, I would say we will create a better ecosystem, a sustainable and strong ecosystem, and then we can also measure that integration and the success of that integration on a long run.
So I have my checklist now, and let me see if I got it right. Number 1 is regulation. Number 2 is technology. Number 3 is infrastructure. Number 4 is business.
Exactly, you got it.
Tom, what are some of the other success factors that we need to take into account? I think everyone on this panel agrees this is still aviation. This is still space, not just aerospace, but space in general. What are some of the other successful benchmarks or milestones that we're going to have to see with the harmonizing of UTM and ATC?
Yeah, so I mean, I think first of all, I completely agree with Ruba. So I'm not going to repeat all this because I think those are all great points. And I also agree with Cristiano that the social acceptance is going to be extremely important in this environment. So I'm going to take just a slightly different angle and want to talk a little bit about how can we get there, because it's everybody likes to talk about, yeah, we want to have this fully integrated set of operations. And I totally agree. This is the long-term vision, of course, is we don't have segregated airspace. Everybody is fully integrated. We see drones flying, small drones. We see passenger carrying, eVTOLs flying in the same airspace, traditional aircraft and everything. Now that vision is really hard to realize if that's what you're trying to do right at the beginning and say, yeah, we're going to integrate this full flexibility right from the get-go. So I do think actually we should continue down some of the approaches that we're doing right now. I mean, starting with small drone operations below 400 feet, 120 meters is a start, even though it's segregated, but it's a lower risk operation, because we know that there's not going to be in the areas where we allow those things, there's not much traditional air traffic, so we can minimize the risk. As we start to think about integrating urban air mobility, so passenger carrying vehicles, at least from our perspective, we think this is going to start with piloted operations actually. So there you have a much kind of lower hurdle to get beyond this beyond line of sight operation type, because if you have a pilot inside the vehicle, you can operate under visual operations while you integrate some of these UTM concepts on the back end and start learning more about how can they actually help you coordinate with air traffic, help you facilitate some of this information exchange that is currently done purely voice-based and is kind of some of these bottlenecks. So I think there's a pathway right there where you can prove out the technologies, prove out the regulations in a relatively safe environment. And then simultaneously, you also have to kind of continue to work on the beyond line of sight operations and enabling how do we fit those in there? How can they work in concert with UTM so that you start with these still manageable incremental steps that all kind of lead into the same direction, but we don't get hung up by trying to achieve a very lofty goal right away that will prevent us from taking any of those incremental steps that will actually allow us to start inserting more of these operations, collect a lot of data, because our decisions will have to be largely data driven by what we learn over time in a safe environment, and then eventually work our way towards the fully integrated vision that everybody's seeing here. So I think one of my messages is here, you got to start somewhere. Don't get just completely held off because you can't achieve everything right away. The things that we're doing today help us move into the right direction if we do them right.
So lots of small steps to get to that grand vision. Omar, can you share with us a little bit about what are some of those successful milestones that you would like to see from an ATC perspective?
Okay, Matthew, as I stated, we started in UAE with segregated airspace. So nowadays we have a lot of experience with segregated airspace with UAVs. We learned a lot. Of course, everybody aware there are some military UAVs who's operating above in high levels, below 20,000 feet, and also segregated airspace with these UAVs where they have two-way communication with the ATC. We know how they are interacting, we can see those UAVs operating inside, so we have a bit of information. So we are moving toward integration. At the moment, yes, it's segregated airspace. There are a lot of activities below certain altitude. I agree with Tom.
Your organization, that we could get the airspace to do that. And it really is incredible that you have that perspective from a very low level all the way up to the Emirates Airlines flight that's taking off. So it's impressive, and it exists. I can verify that. So we have time for closing remarks, and really this is, please, what do you hope those that attended today will take away, and what do you hope that they have learned, and maybe challenge them to find out more about this important subject? Cristiano, will you kick us off with closing remarks, please?
Yes, I need for the tasks that have been asked, of course, to represent the group, INAV Group. INAV is the mother company of D-Flight. So allow me very quickly to snap through a couple of slides just to to let you to let the audience understand what the group is able to gather for. So INAV Group is really covering a full portfolio of services spanning in all the air traffic management and every kind of service related to air traffic management, from air traffic, from aeronautical information up to unmanned traffic management and co-flight cloud services, which is our latest product, is ATC as a service rather than as a platform. So I think this is really innovative. We have already Sky Guides applying for this kind of service in experimental mode, but I think this is also a revolutionary, so as UTM. So I don't want to annoy, of course, with commercial presentation, but it's just to give you a snapshot of what INAV Group is able to do for airspace user, for the airspace, for its evolution. We are really looking for a vision which is we are all in one sky. So exactly what Canso is also promoting, of course, and we are doing all the best from the operational down to the technological perspective to achieve these results. I'm glad and honored and proud to belong to this group. Thank you.
Thank you, Cristiano, for sharing that presentation with us. Ruba, closing remarks. What do you hope people take away today?
Thank you. I hope people take away from today that we don't have to get to the ultimate goal in one step. It's gonna take multiple steps, many steps. We have to see the opportunities more than focusing on the challenges and the obstacles. We have to work together, have very effective and efficient collaboration, because we don't want time wasting collaboration. I want really effective and efficient collaboration where people come together and think of solutions, think of opportunities where we can fund and support our academia as well as our researchers, where we can also inspire our regulators and push them to move a little bit faster, where we can also ask our top technology players to obey to our regulations and work with them as well, and also where we can create a fruitful, let's say, soil for businesses to grow and thrive. And then what I want everyone to read more about the topic, to maybe take part and participate in more working groups and forums to create those cross-sectional projects and targets together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruba. Tom, what would you like to see coming out of this panel? What are the next steps?
Well, I think first of all, I think it's really encouraging that there's a very common agreement on generally the approach forward of having to implement something like UTM in addition to the traditional air traffic services that will have to come together, interoperate with each other, and that's a path to the future that will allow us to provide scalability, enable new operations beyond what we can handle with the systems we have today. And to that note, I think also encouraging and for there's lots of activities around the small drone space, around the passenger carrying vehicle space. I think within the next 5 years, we're going to see a lot of increased types of operations in our cities. And I feel like all the listeners to this panel, I mean, if you should just look around kind of what are some of these emerging technologies and those opportunities, that it's going to be really exciting what's coming down the road. But it's also going to be quite challenging for regulators to keep up, for industry and government to build the systems to support those types of things. None of this should keep us from progressing forward. And I think a lot of these new types of operations are fairly close right now, as long as we can keep working together and move things along. And there's different places around the world that prove themselves as excellent first movers and show some and demonstrate some of those operations, I guess, like we're seeing in Dubai.
I wish we had more time. I think we could spend an hour with each of you and have some great lessons learned. Omar, you have the last word on the panel today. What do you hope the attendees take away, and what are some of the next steps coming out of this panel?
Thank you, Matthew. I think if we can take one thing out of this panel is the collaboration between ATM, UTM is going to make this much quicker. Even if there is, if regulation, as long as you can prove something like this is safe for commercial flights, regulation will follow. So the collaboration, the coordination, the information sharing can make this happen very quickly. UTM and drones are coming. There is no way of stopping something like this, and this is the future.
Thank you for joining us today for this Global Air Traffic Management Conference 2020 panel on this important topic of harmonizing UTM and ATC to create the world's smartest sky. Again, special thanks to our distinguished panel of experts from General Civil Aviation Authority, Uber Elevate, UAE Government, and D-Flight. Omar, Tom, Ruba, Cristiano, my personal thanks for a great panel today. We hope to welcome you all here again in the UAE, to all those attendees that are joining us virtually, and to see you here in person soon. And until then, thank you. Shukran. Masalama.